Don't touch me. Please don't. The voice cut through the sterile hallway like broken glass. Ethan froze, mop in hand, the ammonia smell of cleaning solution burning his nostrils. He'd been at Stellenbosch Psychiatric Hospital for exactly 4 hours, and already he wanted to disappear. But that voice, small, terrified, desperate, it pulled at something inside him he thought had died months ago. He shouldn't care. He was a janitor now. The disgraced coal heir reduced to mopping floors and emptying trash bins because he'd crashed his third Mercedes and landed in court-mandated community service. His father's final ultimatum still rang in his ears. Prove you can be responsible for once in your privileged life, or you're done. But that voice wouldn't stop. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have something important to ask. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Your subscription isn't just a number to me, it's hope. It's the reason I can keep telling these stories that matter, stories that might touch someone who needs them most. And please, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing you're out there, listening, feeling these stories with me. Now let's continue. Ethan dropped the mop. His feet moved before his mind could stop them, following the sound down the west corridor, where patients weren't supposed to be at this hour. The voice came again, quieter now, breaking. Please. I'll be good. I promise I'll be good. He turned the corner and saw them. A young woman, barefoot, hospital gown hanging loose on her thin frame, pressed against the wall. An orderly, massive, smirking, had her cornered, one hand planted beside her head. The woman's face was turned away, eyes squeezed shut, her whole body trembling like a bird caught in a storm. Come on, sweetheart, the orderly murmured. Just be nice to me. That's all I'm asking. Something hot and sharp exploded in Ethan's chest. Get away from her. His voice came out harder than he expected. The orderly turned, annoyed, then laughed when he saw Ethan, just the new janitor boy in his oversized uniform. Mind your business, kid. This doesn't concern you. Ethan's hands clenched. 6 months ago, he would have walked away. 6 months ago, he only cared about where the next party was, whose yacht he'd crash, which trust fund he'd drain next. But standing there, watching this girl shake like the world was ending, something in him refused to move. I said get away from her. The orderly stepped closer, chest puffed. Or what? Ethan didn't think. He just moved. He grabbed the man's arm and yanked, throwing his whole weight into it. The orderly stumbled, surprised, and Ethan wedged himself between them. His heart hammered. He wasn't a fighter. He was a spoiled rich kid who'd never thrown a real punch in his life. But he stood there anyway. Touch her again, Ethan said quietly, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you do down here when no one's watching. The orderly's face darkened. For a moment, Ethan thought he'd actually have to fight. Then footsteps echoed from the main corridor, night supervisor making rounds. The orderly spat on the floor, shot Ethan a look that promised consequences, and walked away. Ethan's legs nearly gave out. He turned to the girl, still pressed against the wall, eyes still closed. Hey, he said softly. He's gone. You're safe now. She opened her eyes slowly. They were the lightest brown he'd ever seen, almost gold in the dim hallway light. She looked at him with something between confusion and wonder, like she couldn't quite believe he was real. You came, she whispered. Yeah, I came. She pushed off the wall, barefoot on the cold tile, and something about the way she moved, careful, gentle, like she was afraid of taking up too much space, made Ethan's throat tighten. What's your name? He asked. Lila. Her voice was so quiet he almost missed it. Lila Moore. I'm Ethan. She nodded, studying his face like she was memorizing it. Then she did something that would change everything. She smiled. Not a big smile. Just a small, fragile thing that made her whole face soften. Thank you, Ethan, she said. Nobody ever stays. And in that moment, Ethan Cole realized he'd just made a choice he couldn't take back. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He lay in his cramped studio apartment, the one his father had graciously provided after cutting off his real trust fund, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her. Lila, pressed against that wall, shaking. Those gold-brown eyes looking at him like he'd done something extraordinary, when all he'd done was the bare minimum of human decency. Nobody ever stays. The words haunted him. What kind of life had she lived where someone simply not walking away felt like a miracle? Morning came too fast. Ethan dragged himself back to Stellenbosch Psychiatric Hospital, his body aching from the physical labor he wasn't used to. Mopping floors, scrubbing toilets, emptying trash bins filled with things he tried not to think about. This was his life now. Punishment for being born rich and wasting every opportunity. But as he pushed his cleaning cart down the east wing, he found himself looking for her. He spotted Lila in the common room, sitting cross-legged on a worn couch near the barred windows. Sunlight streamed through, catching in her dark hair. She was barefoot again, always barefoot, he'd noticed, and she was talking to a potted plant on the windowsill. "You're doing so good," she whispered to it, touching a yellowing leaf gently. "Don't give up. The sun's here now. You just have to hold on a little longer." Ethan's chest tightened. A nurse passed by, muttering to a colleague. "That's the Moore girl. Been here 6 years. Mother kept her locked in their house until the neighbors finally called it in. Girl didn't know how to read, couldn't count past 10. Thinks she's responsible for her mother's death." The nurse shook her head. "Tragedy really. But she's too far gone. Too far gone." Ethan looked at Lila, still whispering encouragement to a dying plant, and felt anger rise in his throat. She wasn't gone. She was right there. Gentle. Present. More compassionate toward a plant than most people were toward each other. He should walk away. Do his job. Stay invisible. That was the plan. But his feet carried him toward her anyway. "Hey," he said softly. Lila looked up, and her whole face transformed when she recognized him. "Ethan." She said his name like it was something precious. "You came back. I work here, remember? People work lots of places," she said simply. "Doesn't mean they come back." She patted the couch beside her, and Ethan sat, keeping a careful distance. Up close, he could see the faint scars on her arms, small, old ones that made him wonder what her life had been before this place. "I'm taking care of Gerald," Lila said, gesturing to the plant. "Everyone forgot about him, but I didn't. He just needs someone to remember he's alive." Ethan stared at the half-dead plant. "You named it Gerald? He looks like a Gerald." She said this with complete seriousness. Despite everything, the institutional smell, the barred windows, the weight of his ruined life, Ethan almost smiled. They sat in silence for a while. Comfortable silence. The kind Ethan had never experienced with the parade of shallow people who used to fill his life. Lila didn't ask him questions. Didn't judge. Just existed beside him, quiet and calm. "Why are you here?" she asked finally. "I told you. I work." "No." She turned those gold-brown eyes on him, and they were too knowing, too perceptive. "Why are you really here? You don't move like someone who belongs in a place like this." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I screwed up. Crashed my car. Got arrested. Judge gave me community service or jail." He laughed bitterly. "Guess my father's lawyers are good for something." "You were running from something," Lila said quietly. It wasn't a question. Ethan looked at her, this girl the nurses called too far gone, and realized she'd seen through him in 30 seconds. Seen the truth he'd been hiding behind parties and recklessness and 100,000 rand bottles of champagne. "Yeah," he admitted. "I was running." "Did it work?" "No." Lila nodded like this made perfect sense. "Running never does. You just end up in a different place, still carrying the same weight." Before Ethan could respond, his supervisor's voice barked across the common room. "Cole, break time's over. Those toilets won't scrub themselves." Ethan stood reluctantly. Lila watched him with those two knowing eyes. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked. "I have to. I work here." "That's not what I asked." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "Yeah, Lila, I'll come back." Her smile was small, but it lit something inside him he thought had burned out months ago. "Good," she whispered. "Because I'll be waiting. If you haven't subscribed yet, family, please join us. These stories, they're not just entertainment. They're about real struggles, real healing, real hope. Every subscription helps us continue sharing these journeys. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you. 3 weeks passed like water through fingers. Ethan found himself drawn to Lila every day. During breaks, lunch hours, those quiet moments when the hospital staff wasn't watching too closely. They'd sit in the common room or walk the enclosed courtyard, and Lila would say things that cracked open his carefully constructed walls. "You're sad," she observed one afternoon, watching him stare at nothing. "I'm fine. Sad people always say they're fine." She tilted her head. "It's like a password. I'm fine means please see me but don't make me explain." Ethan laughed despite himself. "When did you get so wise?" "I have a lot of time to think here." She picked at the hem of her hospital gown. "Thinking is all I do. Thinking and remembering and trying to forget." He wanted to ask what she was trying to forget, but something in her voice stopped him. Some wounds were too fresh to touch, even after 6 years. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Ethan was mopping the administrative corridor when his phone buzzed. His father. He almost didn't answer. Their last conversation had ended with shouted accusations and a slammed door. But something made him press accept. Ethan. His father's voice was cold, controlled. Your brother's wedding is in 2 weeks. Camps Bay. I expect you there. I'm working that weekend. I don't care. You'll be there, and you'll bring someone. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone. What? A girlfriend? A partner? Someone who proves you're capable of thinking about another human being besides yourself. His father's tone sharpened. Bring someone respectable to this wedding, show me you're growing up, and I'll consider discussing your trust fund. Come alone, or don't come at all. The line went dead. Ethan stood there, mop dripping on the floor, rage and desperation warring in his chest. A girlfriend. His father wanted proof he was changing, maturing, becoming someone worthy of the Cole name. But Ethan didn't have a girlfriend. He had burned every bridge, alienated every friend, destroyed every relationship with his selfishness. He had nothing. Except. The idea came to him slowly, terribly. He pushed it away immediately. No. That was insane. Impossible. Wrong on every level. But the idea wouldn't leave. That evening, he found Lila in her usual spot by the window, talking softly to Gerald the plant. She looked up when he approached, and her smile made his chest ache with what he was about to do. Lila, I need to ask you something. She set down the watering cup she'd stolen from the nurse's station. Okay. Ethan sat beside her, hands clasped between his knees. How would you feel about leaving here? Just for a weekend. Maybe 3 days. Her eyes widened. Leaving? With me? There's this wedding I have to go to. My brother's getting married, and my father. He stopped, hating himself already. He wants me to bring someone. To prove I'm not the screw-up he thinks I am. Lila was quiet for a long moment, studying his face with that unnerving perceptiveness. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? It wasn't a question. I know how it sounds, Ethan said quickly. I know it's asking too much. But Lila, if I don't do this, I'll lose everything. My father will cut me off completely, and I'll be stuck cleaning toilets for the rest of my life. And he stopped, hearing the desperation in his own voice. I need help, and I don't have anyone else. Why me? The question hung between them, simple and devastating. Ethan could have lied, could have said something smooth about her being perfect for the role. Instead, the truth spilled out. Because you're the only real thing in my life right now. Lila's expression softened. She reached out slowly, carefully, and placed her hand on his. Her skin was warm, her touch feather-light. If I do this, she said quietly, I'm not pretending. Ethan's heart stopped. What? I don't know how to pretend, Ethan. I only know how to be real. She squeezed his hand gently. So if I come with you, if I hold your hand and smile at your family and stand beside you, I won't be acting. I'll just be choosing you. Something in Ethan's chest cracked open. Is that okay? Lila asked, those gold-brown eyes searching his face. He should say no. Should tell her this was just business, just a transaction, just a desperate man using a vulnerable woman to save his inheritance. But looking at her, feeling her hand in his, Ethan couldn't lie. Yeah, he whispered. That's okay. Lila smiled, and for the first time in months, Ethan felt like he might survive whatever came next. Family, if these stories are touching your heart, please subscribe. Your support allows us to keep sharing these journeys of hope and healing. Comment below and tell me where you're listening from. I love connecting with you all. Getting Lila out of Stellenbosch Psychiatric Hospital was easier than Ethan expected. He'd forged a weekend pass, something his old life of privilege had taught him well, and walked her out Friday morning like she was any other patient on approved leave. The nurses barely looked up. To them, Lila was just another file, another case number, another forgotten soul. But standing in the parking lot, watching her tilt her face toward the sun, eyes closed, breathing deep, Ethan saw something else entirely. I forgot what wind felt like, she whispered. His throat tightened. Come on. We have a flight to catch. The drive to Cape Town International was quiet. Lila pressed her face against the window, watching Table Mountain rise in the distance, watching the city sprawl toward the ocean. Still barefoot. Ethan had bought her shoes, simple canvas ones, but she'd left them in the car. Don't you want to wear those? He'd asked. Shoes make me forget I'm real, she'd said simply. The ground reminds me I'm here. At the airport, people stared. A young woman in a simple dress, no shoes, moving through the terminal like she was walking on holy ground. Ethan found himself instinctively moving closer, his hand hovering near her back, ready to shield her from their judgment. On the plane, Lila gripped the armrest during takeoff, knuckles white. Without thinking, Ethan reached over and took her hand. She looked at him, surprised, then laced her fingers through his. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't let go until they landed. The Cole estate in Camps Bay took Lila's breath away. Sprawling white walls, infinity pool overlooking the ocean, glass everywhere reflecting the afternoon sun. Ethan's childhood home. His prison. His father met them at the door, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit even on a Saturday. His eyes swept over Lila once, taking in her bare feet and simple dress, and something cold flickered across his face. "So this is her," Richard Cole said. "Not a question. Dad, this is Lila Moore. Lila, my father." Lila extended her hand with careful politeness. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Cole." Richard shook her hand briefly, barely. "Interesting choice, Ethan. Where did you two meet?" "At work," Ethan said quickly. Too quickly. His father's eyebrow raised. "At the hospital? Is she a nurse?" The question hung in the air, loaded with implications. Ethan's mind raced for an answer, but Lila spoke first. "I'm a patient there," she said simply. "Ethan helped me when I needed help. That's how we met." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard Cole's face went through several expressions: surprise, disgust, anger, finally settling on cold fury. "Ethan. A word. Now." In his father's study, the yelling started immediately. "A mental patient?" Richard's voice could have shattered the windows. "You brought a mental patient to your brother's wedding? Her name is Lila. I don't care what her name is. Do you have any idea how this looks? What people will say? The Cole family, already embarrassed by your arrests and accidents, now associating with. With what?" Ethan's anger finally broke through. "With someone real. Someone who actually cares about people instead of what they can get from them. She's using you, you fool. Can't you see that? A girl from a psychiatric hospital, latching onto a wealthy man. She doesn't even know I'm wealthy." Ethan shouted. "She doesn't know about the trust fund, or the family name, or any of it. She agreed to come because I asked her. Because I needed help, and she wanted to help me. Not because of money. Not because of status. Because she's a good person." Richard laughed bitterly. "You're more naive than I thought. And you're more heartless than I remembered." They stared at each other, years of disappointment and resentment filling the space between them. Finally, Richard spoke, his voice ice. "You have until the wedding tomorrow. Keep her quiet, keep her out of sight, and maybe, we can salvage this disaster. But Ethan?" He leaned forward. "After this weekend, I never want to see her again. Understood?" Ethan didn't answer. He walked out, fists clenched, heart hammering. He found Lila on the balcony looking at the ocean. She turned when he approached, and somehow she already knew. "He hates me," she said quietly. "He doesn't know you. He doesn't want to know me." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm the wrong kind of person for his family." Ethan stood beside her, close but not touching. "Lila, it's okay," she whispered. "I'm used to being the wrong kind of person." And in that moment, Ethan Cole made a decision that would change everything. He took her hand, right there on the balcony where anyone could see, and he didn't let go. "You're not wrong," he said. "They are." Lila looked at him with those gold-brown eyes, and something passed between them that felt too big for words. Tomorrow was the wedding. Tomorrow, everything would fall apart. The wedding was beautiful in the way expensive things always are, hollow, pristine, cold. Ethan stood in his rented suit, watching his brother marry a woman whose name he could barely remember, and felt nothing. The ceremony happened around him, like a play he wasn't part of. All he could focus on was Lila beside him, bare feet hidden under the pew, her hand gripping his like a lifeline. She'd been quiet all morning. Too quiet. At the reception, things unraveled slowly, then all at once. Lila tried. God, she tried. She smiled when spoken to, nodded politely at introductions, stayed close to Ethan like he'd asked. But she didn't understand the rules of this world. The performance of it, the careful dance of saying one thing while meaning another. When Richard's business partner asked what she did for a living, she answered honestly. "I live in a hospital. I don't work." When Ethan's aunt commented on her dress, Lila said simply, "Ethan bought it for me. I didn't have anything nice." Each honest answer landed like a stone in water, sending ripples of whispered conversations across the reception hall. Then came dinner. Richard Cole stood to give a toast, champagne glass raised, his speech full of pride for his successful son, subtle digs at Ethan, barely concealed disappointment wrapped in expensive words. Lila's hand tightened on Ethan's under the table. When Richard finished, he looked directly at Ethan. "Now, I believe my younger son has someone he'd like us to meet properly." "Ethan?" It wasn't a request. Ethan stood slowly, pulling Lila up with him. Every eye in the room turned toward them. He felt her trembling. "This is Lila," he said, voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. She's important to me." "And what does Lila do?" Richard asked, that dangerous edge in his voice. Silence. Lila looked at Ethan, then at the 100 faces staring at her, waiting, judging. Her breathing quickened. Her eyes darted to the exits like a trapped animal. She started, then stopped. "I don't." "Speak up, dear," Richard said coldly. "We're all family here." "Dad, that's enough." "No, Ethan. You brought her here. Let her speak for herself." Lila's whole body started shaking. The room pressed in, too many eyes, too many expectations, too much judgment. Ethan recognized the signs immediately. Panic attack. He'd seen her have them at the hospital. "I can't," Lila whispered, her voice breaking. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She pulled away from Ethan and ran. Right through the reception hall, past the shocked guests, barefoot across the polished marble, out into the night. Ethan started after her, but his father's hand gripped his shoulder. "Let her go," Richard said quietly. "She's proven exactly what I said she was. Unstable. Inappropriate. Wrong for this family." Something inside Ethan snapped. "Wrong for this family?" He turned on his father, voice rising. "This family that values money over people. That judges everyone by what they can offer instead of who they are. That made me so desperate for approval I'd rather crash cars and party myself to death than admit I was drowning." The reception hall went silent. "She's the most honest person I've ever met," Ethan continued, his voice breaking. "She doesn't lie. She doesn't manipulate. She doesn't pretend to be something she's not just to make people comfortable. And you're right, she doesn't belong here. Because she's too good for this." Richard's face hardened. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made was caring what you think." Ethan walked away. Through the silent crowd, past his brother's shocked face, out into the night where Lila had disappeared. He found her at the beach, sitting on the sand, arms wrapped around her knees, staring at the dark ocean. She was crying silently, the way people cry when they've learned tears don't help. "I ruined everything," she whispered when he sat beside her. "No, you didn't. Your father hates me. Your whole family. I don't care." Ethan turned her face toward his gently. "Lila, I don't care what they think anymore." She searched his eyes. "But the money, your trust fund, everything you needed. I needed to remember who I wanted to be." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "You showed me that. Not them." They sat in silence, waves crashing in the darkness. Finally, Lila spoke. "I stole my father's RV keys," she said quietly. "Before we left the estate. I thought, if things went bad, we could leave. Together." Ethan stared at her. "You planned an escape route?" "I always plan escape routes." She looked at him with those gold brown eyes. "But this time, I wanted to take you with me." Ethan's heart hammered. "Then let's go." "Really? Really? Right now? Before I lose my nerve." They ran to the parking lot, found the massive RV, his father's prized possession, and climbed inside. Ethan had never driven anything like it, but he started the engine anyway, Lila laughing beside him, both of them giddy with recklessness and freedom. They made it 3 hours down the garden route before reality hit. Ethan pulled over at a rest stop, hands shaking on the wheel. "What am I doing?" he whispered. "I just abandoned my family. Stole my father's RV. Destroyed any chance of getting my trust fund back." Lila was quiet. "I have nothing now," Ethan continued, panic rising. "No money. No future. No plan. And you." He looked at her. "You need care. Real care. Professional help. What if something happens to you out here? What if you have a crisis and I can't help you? So take me back," Lila said softly. "What?" "To the hospital. If you're scared, take me back." Her voice was calm, accepting. "I understand, Ethan. I do. This is too much. I'm too much." Ethan stared at her. Then, without a word, he got out of the RV. He walked into the rest stop, bought a coffee he didn't drink, and sat at a plastic table while his mind screamed at him. This was insane. He couldn't do this. He was barely keeping himself together. How could he possibly take care of someone else? An hour passed. Then another. When Ethan finally walked back to the RV, he expected Lila to be angry. Hurt. Instead, She was exactly where he'd left her, hands folded in her lap, waiting. "You came back," she said simply. "I almost didn't." "I know. But you did." She smiled that small, fragile smile. "That's what matters." Ethan climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and kept driving. They didn't talk about where they were going. They just drove through the night, leaving Cape Town and the Cole family and all their expectations behind. Over the following days, something shifted between them. They parked the RV at campgrounds along the coast, bought groceries with the emergency cash Ethan had, slept in separate bunks but woke to make breakfast together. Lila taught him how to notice small things, the way morning light hit the ocean, the sound of wind through eucalyptus trees. Ethan taught her about the world beyond hospital walls, how to order food, use an ATM, navigate spaces without fear. They didn't call it love. They didn't call it anything. But every day, Ethan chose to stay. And every day, Lila chose to trust him. One evening, as they sat outside the RV watching the sun set over Plettenberg Bay, Lila finally spoke the words that had been building between them. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "About why I'm really in that hospital. About my mother. About what happened." Ethan's heart stopped. This was it. The secret she'd been carrying. The truth that might change everything. "Okay," he said. Lila took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "My mother kept me locked in our house for 18 years. She said the world was dangerous. That people would hurt me. That I was special and needed protection." Her voice cracked. "She homeschooled me, but she didn't really teach me anything. Just enough to keep me dependent. Keep me hers." Ethan listened, his chest tight. "When I was 18, I tried to leave. Just once. I made it to the front door." Lila's eyes were distant now, seeing something he couldn't. "She had a heart attack. Right there. Fell down the stairs trying to stop me. And I just stood there, frozen, watching her die. Lila." The neighbors found us 3 days later. Me sitting beside her body, not knowing what to do. Not understanding what death even was. Tears streamed down her face. "Everyone said it wasn't my fault. But she died because I tried to leave. Because I wanted freedom more than I wanted her." "That's not true," Ethan said firmly. "Isn't it?" Lila looked at him with those gold-brown eyes, full of pain. "They put me in the hospital because I couldn't function. Couldn't speak for months. The guilt, it ate me alive. And part of me thought I deserved to be locked up. Thought it was right that I ended up in another cage." Ethan pulled her close, feeling her shake against him. "You didn't kill her, Lila. You were trying to survive. But there's more," she whispered against his chest. "Something I need to tell you. Something that will change how you see me." He pulled back to look at her face. "What is it?" Lila took a shaky breath, her eyes searching his. "If I tell you, will you still stay?" Ethan didn't hesitate. He took both her hands in his and held them tight. "Tell me," he said quietly. "Whatever it is, tell me." Lila opened her mouth to speak,